up, guys? This is Chris here, and today we're going to be talking about the most popular pistol in the US, maybe in the world, the Glock pistol, and whether or not it's right for you, whether you might want to get one, or if you have one, maybe it's time to upgrade. We'll see in this video. So in this video, I would just want to go over the pros and the cons, what's good about them, what's not, why people get them, and why people trade them in. Before we do that though, I do want to mention my patron supporters. Thank you guys very much. Most of the guns on the channel are bought by you guys. We make content for you and not the industry, and sometimes the industry doesn't like us for that. So we appreciate you supporting us. If you want to support us, just go to the link in the description below. Also in that description is a link to a local shelter named Iowa. It's the YSS. Those kids could really use your help. It's a youth shelter named Iowa, so please go down there and donate to those kids. Now, let's just get into this video a little bit, and I talk a lot about Glocks on my channel because they're very popular, because they're a great gun. I mean, let's get that out of the way right away. Glocks are a great gun, and I've carried them for years because of that. But there are some pros and there are some cons, like any other pistol, like any other type of firearm. ARs, AKs, whatever it's gonna be, there's always gonna be some good things and some bad things, and usually the good outweigh the bad. We're gonna talk about both here and just try to figure out if it's right for you. There's so many choices in the firearms industry now that you don't have to settle for something that's kind of good or you kind of like. There's so many options that I think maybe the Glock is not on top like it used to be. So let's go over the pros first, and let's talk about all the great things about it. First off, for what you get, they're pretty affordable. Now, I know they've gone up in price a little bit and a little bit down in features, which we'll get to, but as far as pistols go, the $500 to $700 price point, depending on where you get one. In Iowa, you can get one for like $550. If you're in California, maybe they're $1,500. I don't know. I don't know what your prices are over there. Don't hate me in the comments for it. In an average state, you're coming in around 600 bucks, somewhere in there. And that's pretty good for a semi-automatic, striker-fired, polymer frame pistol that is a great do-it-all firearm, because that's kind of what Glock does well. If you want to buy one handgun, it's not a bad choice for that, because not only are they affordable, but they're reliable, and they're really reliable. Maybe one of the best as far as reliability goes, maybe the most reliable pistol throughout history. They have a great track record in law enforcement and military. They were used by special operations for many years and still are. The issued guns are not always the guns they use. They often use their own guns, and if you see in lots of the pictures and the videos and that people make, most of the time they're carrying Glock pistols, and that's just because of the plethora of pros, which we're going to talk about, other than reliability. So not only are they reliable, like in a standard reliability test, or you can take 1,000 rounds of ammunition and shoot it through there to be reliable, but you can also do that without cleaning, which is nice. You can shoot 500, 1,000, 15, or even 2,000 rounds through a Glock pistol without cleaning much, if at all, and lubing once every never, basically, because they really do run well. They run well when they're not being taken care of. That's why they're a great gun for a lot of people who get into a gun for the first time, because you don't have to know a lot of stuff to get into the pistol. It's not complicated, and the battery of arms and the care needed is not that much. So they're reliable, they're durable in adverse conditions, which is really nice. They have a habit of passing a lot of mud, sand, and dirt tests that a lot of guns do not. Now the M&P, the PDP, and stuff like that have caught up over the years, but Glock still does it. It did it first, and it's still doing it, so that's very respectable. Proven track record's a nice thing as well. At least you know what you're getting into when you get a gun, especially a new first-time shooter. He wants to get what the cops use. He wants to get what the military uses. They've already tested it, and it's just a good bet. You know, if you buy it, you know it's going to work. Pop culture is another one that props the Glock up a lot. So much so that you'll hear people in movies and TV refer to just any pistol as a Glock, even if they don't have a Glock in their hand. That's how popular these guns actually are. Now, one of the biggest pros that Glock did first before a lot of people was they made different size pistols that have the same ergonomics and often take the same magazines. So you can get a Glock 34 like this with a 5.5-inch barrel, or you can get a Glock 17L with like a 6-inch barrel, and the magazines will still work in the Glock 19 compact size pistol, which is really sweet. So you can get yourself a nice carry pistol like this, or even a Glock 26, and you can still use all the same magazines your big competition pistol uses, or maybe your home defense or duty pistol uses. You can kind of get the whole set, and most of them will take not only the same magazines now, but with the Glock 47, the new one that came out this year, the longer slides will even fit on the shorter frames like the 19X and the Glock 45. And that's kind of cool. You have a little bit of, not only do you have sights interchangeability, trigger interchangeability, slide interchangeability, but you can switch the mags. And and it's really a nice little niche to get into. If you just want to go with one brand, it's a pretty good way to get everything out of it. Another pistol that you could check out in the Glock line that'll have the same ergonomics but it'll have different magazines is going to be the Glock 43X and the Glock 48. The Glock 43X is the most popular carry gun in the United States, and there's a good reason. It has the same ergonomics as the same classic Glock, but it has a much more slimline profile and is certainly the most innovative thing Glock has put out in a while. 10-round magazine capacity. It's a single stack mag as opposed to the more modern double stack micro 9, but it's still a good way to go for carry, and you still have the same ergonomics with this, and then you can still easily shoot your 34 for home defense, concealed carry, or duty. Now, Glock certainly isn't the only person to do that now. Lines like the PDP, M&P, all those lines of firearms do that as well. However, Glock, I think, was the first one, or at least the first popular one, to do that. Another big advantage of Glocks being so popular is a lot of firearms take their magazines. For example, you can get an MDP9 or a JP5 or lots of different pistol caliber carbines that take Glock mags, and you could have a 9mm rifle that takes the same magazines as your pistol, and you could buy a whole bunch of the same magazine and you could use them in a 19, you could use them in a 34, or you could even use them in a pistol caliber carbine, and that's pretty cool. They're also very affordable at around 20 to 30 bucks a pop, making them a lot cheaper than most magazines on the market. We kind of covered this earlier, but another pro is that Glocks are very easy to use for beginners. So this is a stock Glock 47 here. As you can see, there isn't a lot to learn and or go wrong. We just have the magazine, it goes into the magazine well, and then you rack the slide, and that's it. The gun's ready to go. There is no manual safety, there is no grip safety of any kind, there's nothing on the slide to catch or have any problems with. You have a slide lock or a slide stop or whatever you want to call it, and that works really well, but you don't even have to use that in all fairness. You can just dump the mag, rack the round out, and there you go. It's one of the most simple platforms to use, and it's really easy to teach somebody to use it and use it quickly. The striker fired trigger is not as good as some of its competitors, but it is nice for beginners as well because it's about 5.5, 6, 7 pounds, which is just right. It's that perfect porridge in order to teach a person to shoot for the first time. Not too heavy to where they're slinging shots all over the place like a double action revolver, and not too light where they might have negligent discharges off draws and things like that. The Glock really is kind of right in the middle. Now, another thing that we can't show on YouTube, but it is super easy to disassemble these. You can disassemble them so quickly. You just pop the pins out, slide the slide off, pull the barrel and the recoil spring out, and you're essentially field stripped, and you can just clean your gun really quick and put it back together. You don't even really have to take it apart to oil it most of the time. Put a little bit of top on the chamber and put some on the slide rails, and you're good to go. You should take it apart because it's not that hard, but if you're at the range and you're popping a bunch of rounds off, you could pour a bunch of oil on it real quick, and it'll run great. Glock pistols run dry better than most pistols. I mean, if you get like a staccato, you're gonna have to put lube on it. But the M&P series, PDP, they also are starting to catch up. But the Glock is kind of the classic use it, abuse it, and leave it alone gun. So if you're looking for that, this is a great way to go. It does come in, like I said, many barrel lengths from the 17L all the way to the 43, but it also comes in a lot of different colors as well. You get the FDE with the 19X, but there's lots of like Lipsy edition, OD, and gray pistols, and you can get your favorite pistol in whatever color you want. And I know that doesn't matter as far as usability goes, but it is cool to customize things to what you like. And along the lines of customization, that's the other thing, is Glock pistols have the most amount of holsters, magazines, parts, sights, triggers, whatever you want to put on the freaking thing or change it, you can do that. You want to do the cheesy Punisher skull on the back, you can do that if you want to. If you want to get slide serrations, you can go to Jaegerworks or any of those companies and get that done. Stippling is really easy to find. You can even do that yourself as well. Talon Grips make stuff for every single Glock. You can get back straps to change the size of your grip. You can get magazine releases that you can hit without changing your grip if you want. You can get all kinds of stuff. So as far as customization goes and making it your own, maybe only beaten by the P320 because of the fire control unit, but Glock certainly has been at the top of the pile of that for so long, and that's another thing that makes them so popular. Now we'll get into some of the cons, and first off, better competitors. That's the first thing you guys knew I was going to go into if you ever watched the channel, but guns like the PDP, they follow the same form factor, they took the same idea, but they did it better in my personal opinion. This is all my opinion, but if you get a PDP or one of the new M&Ps or a Canic, you're often going to get better ergonomics and a better trigger, maybe a better recoil impulse or whatever it might be, and you're going to get that for around the same amount of money with a little bit more features. And the reason why is because Glock is able to kind of hike up the prices a little bit and still perform on their name alone, whereas guns like Walther and Canik and Smith & Wesson, they have to catch up a little bit, so they tend to offer more stuff for the money. If you get into like a CZ P10C or P10F, those guns are often cheaper and have better triggers and better ergonomics and lighter recoil than the Glock does. But people don't buy them because they don't know what they are, and it's just a safe bet to go with Glock. That failure to innovate is one of the biggest cons in Glock. As you can see, they basically look the same from generation 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and we've got basically the same pistol we had 20 years ago with very little upgrades that people actually asked for. And because of that, you get guns that still have the sight system that people have been complaining about for 20 years. Those super cheap plastic white sights that not only break, but they're very difficult to use, especially at distance, because you have to cut the dot in half with the box, which is very unintuitive, and that's why a lot of people have a tendency to shoot high or low, and the pistol is very blocky and the trigger is very heavy, generally causing people to miss more than they would if they had something like a PDP, a Staccato, or a P10F. Especially when you get into a gun like a Canik or a Walther, which I say a lot, but those are pre-cocked striker guns. You're going to have all the same great reliability, durability, you're going to have all the same great magazine compatibility, parts interchangeability and all that stuff, but you're also going to get a very good trigger, and you're going to get, in my opinion, a better grip and a better interface with the firearm. And what I mean by grip is you can kind of see that they fix it a little bit, but not much. It's got kind of the same grip angle that it always has. And what the Glock grip angle does is it forces you to come over your wrist a little more than you normally would. So you're kind of bearing into the gun more than you normally would, which is all right if you're used to it. And that's why Glock shooters, especially somebody like Shane Cooley, for example, can shoot them so freaking fast. But if you transfer between different firearms all the time like I do, let's say you have a 1911 and then you have an M&P and then you have this, well, the 1911 and the M&P will have the exact same grip angle, so when you present the gun, you're going to get the sights right away, and then every time you present your Glock's going to look like it's shooting high. That's because of the angle on the hump. You're allowed to get a little higher, and that used to be a great benefit of this, but there are guns where you can get higher on the gun now than the Glock, and they don't have this weird hump. Now, along with the hump, you're also going to get Glock knuckle, which is very famous, and as you can see there, they still do the same undercut on the trigger for some reason. Apparently, it's too expensive just to change the die or whatever polymer insert procedure they do with this thing. This is so small and so narrow that anybody that has even remotely large hands always gets Glock knuckle when they shoot it, which is why a lot of the times you'll see guys like me or somebody else, you'll see them take a Dremel and they'll cut that off. But what would have been great is maybe you could charge me $3 more on a gun and get rid of that to begin with and make it more comfortable for everybody. Now, one of the pros of it being easy to customize is also the con. Because if it's easy to customize and parts are easy to find, you are more likely to do that. And you're more likely to end up with something like this, which is going to be faster, a little more streamlined, but it's going to be a little less reliable than it would be if it was just a stock Glock. That's the real issue with customizing Glocks. I've been doing this shit for 10 years and I still can't get it right half the time. You get lulled into a sense of I want something a little better every time, so you have a tendency, a little lighter trigger, a little lighter hammer spring, or a little lighter striker spring, and eventually you start getting light primer strikes, and eventually you start getting failure to feeds, and eventually you start getting short strokes on the slide, and it's all because of those amazing aftermarket parts that you needed to put in your gun to get 1/10 of a second faster, and now your freaking gun doesn't work. So oftentimes the easier it is to accessorize and customize your gun, the more likely you are to make your gun a big fucking paperweight. Another thing I want to talk about is going to be subpar optics mounting system. Now, Glock was one of the first to come out with a universal mounting system, which is cool because the plates come with the gun, and that's nice. I like that. The downside is their plate system is notorious. You can see why I took the optic off here for this one so you can see it. This is the number 2, which is for the RMR or SRO, and a lot of times with these plates you'll find bending and you'll find cracking in these plates, and that's your interface with the firearm, so that changes the zero of your optic, and you can see a lot of videos. I've never had this happen, but optics will literally fly off here sometimes when this plate breaks or these screws break. Sage Dynamics talks about it a little bit, and there's a lot of other videos about it as well. That is one of the things I don't like. Now, you can buy an agency arms plate, or you can buy other adapter plates to put in there, or you can get your gun milled straight from the factory, but most, if not all, Glocks now come with the MOS system, so you're not even capable of milling them, so you're gonna have to find yourself a more high quality plate if you're gonna mount an optic, in my personal opinion, but you can use the stock ones, they just don't last that long. And finally, while takedown is easy to do, you just pull the levers down, pull the gun back, and slide the slide off. Can't do it again because of YouTube policy. That's easy to do, but it's also probably not as good of a system as the takedown lever of like the SIG P320 or the M&P series, where you can actually force that takedown lever down if you have a lot of sand, mud, dirt, and debris in there. And I like that because if your gun doesn't work because you just dropped it in a pond and you need it to work, you can take the takedown lever off, strip the gun, blow the shit out of it, put it back on, and it'll probably work. Whereas with a Glock, you're gonna get all kinds of dirt and debris underneath these takedown levers, and it's gonna be nearly impossible to pull the gun down and strip it apart. We used to do a lot of torture tests on the channel, and every time we had a Glock style takedown lever like this and I put it in sand, I always had a problem taking it apart. So that always is in the back of my mind, and I want a reliable, durable gun, but if I know that there's a particular failure point, that always is kind of a hit on my confidence, so I generally go toward M&P. Now that might be a little crazy because I live in Iowa and there's not that much sand, but if you live in a sandier area, maybe that's something to consider. And to kind of top off the video, I'm not saying Glocks are right for you or they're not. I think a lot of people use Glocks very well, and I think it's a great firearm. It's defended many people's lives. It's taken out a lot of bad dudes, and I think it's one of the best firearms ever made in the history of firearms, to be honest with you. The Glock 19 kind of brought pistols to concealed carriers that they've never used before. One of the first popular high capacity polymer frame striker fed pistols, simple, reliable, high capacity, and lightweight. And I think because of the Glock, you have pistols like the M&P and the PDP and the CZP-10. And I think that should be respected. But I also think you should take in consideration the modern pistols that have come out recently, the innovations that the industry has done over the past few years, and maybe one of those other choices that came out of the Glock is more beneficial to you. And I think the only way you can do that is go to a gun store, pick up the firearm, see if it feels comfortable, consider what I said, and consider if that applies to you or not. And if you like Glocks, you're happy with Glocks, definitely put it in the comment section below. I carry a Glock for years. I still carry them all the time. But the reality is, for the money, there certainly is better guns on the market. Now, whether those are right for you or not, that's up to you. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Please help out your local homeless shelters, and remember to recycle. I'll check you later.